Circle of Competence, Buffett and Munger's remarkably simple conceptual model for success. You're about to watch a video that took a lot of time, effort, analysis, and polishing to create, but YouTube couldn't care less. It's essentially a complicated algorithm that keeps track of how many people like, share, and subscribe to your content. If the video receives too few likes and subscribers, it is buried so deep that no one ever sees it again. So get ready to analyze the feature presentation and keep in mind that you are the one who decides whether or not anyone sees it again. Warren Buffett and his business colleague Charlie Munger created the Circle of Competence mental model. It's a model that describes the field of learning that corresponds to a person's abilities, skills, or expertise. The approach was coined by Buffett and Munger to describe limiting one's financial investments away from areas where one has inadequate knowledge or experience, and instead concentrating on areas where one has the most familiarity or edge. The concept emphasizes the significance of appropriately assessing one's own talents in comparison to what one might believe they know. Know your circle of competence and stick within it. Warren Buffett stated in a 1996 shareholder letter, "The size of that circle is not very important. Knowing its boundaries, however, is vital." What an investor needs is the ability to correctly evaluate selected businesses. Note that word selected. You don't have to be an expert on every company or even many. You only have to be able to evaluate companies within your circle of competence, says Warren Buffett. While Buffett and Munger popularized the concept of circle of competence within which we focus our efforts, the concept itself can be traced all the way back to Andrew Carnegie, an early corporate titan who made his fortune in the iron and steel industries. Carnegie is reported to have said, "My advice to young men would be not only to concentrate their whole time and attention on the one business in life which they engage, but to put every dollar of their capital into it." Others who have achieved success have also profited from this way of thinking. Tom Watson Sr., the founder of IBM, referenced this thought when he said, "I'm no genius. I'm smart in spots, but I stay around those spots." In life, there are numerous career options, callings, and areas of individual specialization. The physician will understand medicine, while the farmer will understand crop rotation. Nonetheless, both of them may drive a car. Thus, we have separate circles of competence as well as instances where their circles coincide. Because they overlap in some areas, the farmer should not attempt to prescribe medicine. They will both be better off if they stick to what they are greatest at, which demonstrates how Circle of Competence is related to another conceptual model from economics called comparative advantage. Even if one of them is better at both, two trading partners are better off doing what they are best at. The opportunity cost of doing something we aren't as good at is substantial. We keep our competitive advantage by abiding within our circle of competence. Charlie Munger said it best when he said, "You have to figure out what your own aptitudes are. If you play games where other people have the aptitudes and you don't, you're going to lose. And that's as close to certain as any prediction that you can make. You have to figure out where you've got an edge, and you've got to play within your own circle of competence. If you have competence, you know the edge. It wouldn't be a competence if you didn't know where the boundaries lie." By what Buffett said about identifying your circle, you can infer that Buffett and Munger share similar viewpoints. The most important thing in terms of your circle of competence is not how large the area of it is, but how well you've defined the perimeter. If you know where your edges are, You are way better off than somebody who has a circle 5 times as large but is very fuzzy about the border. This is not to imply that our circles cannot grow in size. We may expand our circle of competence, but it is a slow and time-consuming process. It may then be argued that this time should be spent where it will have the most impact, which is to say, in areas that are currently within our circle of competence. Warren Buffett quickly found that the insurance industry was something he intuitively understood when he first ventured out in business decades ago. He also stated that despite having worked in the retail industry when he was younger, he had little understanding of it. Much of his success is probably due to the fact that he understood and focused on what made sense to him early on. Beyond concentration, having the appropriate mindset is essential. Lack of knowledge in a particular topic should not lead to an attitude of ignorance or learning apathy. Our life's mission should include expanding our circle by linking fresh knowledge and concepts within our lattice work of understanding. Munger acknowledges that his wide range of learning interests has contributed to his success. I paid no attention to the territorial boundaries of academic disciplines and I just grabbed all the big ideas that I could, said Charlie Munger. Learning the correct knowledge may lead us outside of our existing area of expertise, but it may also connect to areas where we already excel. We can develop what Naval Ravikant refers to as specific knowledge as we fill in the gaps, draw connections, and pursue our learning niche. Specific knowledge is found by pursuing your genuine curiosity and compassion rather than whatever is hot right now. Everybody wants to get rich immediately, but the world is an efficient place. Immediate doesn't work. You do have to put in the time. You do have to put in the hours. And so I think you have to put yourself in the position with the specific knowledge, with accountability, with leverage, with the authentic skill set you have, to be the best in the world at what you do. You have to enjoy it and keep doing it. Keep doing it and keep doing it. Don't keep track and don't keep count because if you do, you will run out of time, says Naval Ravikant. Another essential component of the circle of competence is that being conscious of what we genuinely know versus what we may have recently been exposed to might be beneficial. The vivid or recent availability bias occurs when things we've recently been exposed to or that come to mind vividly becomes things we assume we know with more certainty. If we are familiar enough with something to think about it, we may assume that we fully comprehend it. Or if a news event is fresh in our minds, we may be swayed into believing that we are qualified to assess that subject. It's critical to understand the exact boundaries of our circle of competence in order to avoid cognitive bias and overconfidence errors. If knowledge is power, knowing what we don't know is wisdom, says Adam Grant. These biases are linked to a social psychology concept known as the illusion of explanatory depth, in which people believe they know something well or are competent, but when asked to describe the topic, they are unable to do so properly. Their seeming depth of comprehension was a ruse. It's common to believe that we know more or comprehend more than we actually do. The Dunning-Kruger effect is also applicable to the circle of competence since it depicts what happens when people assess their own talents. Average performers consider themselves to be above average, whilst above average performers consider themselves to be average. Being aware of the various cognitive biases that might influence our judgment can help us correctly determine where our circle of competence genuinely sits, allowing us to be honest with ourselves and make better judgments from a place of strength rather than weakness. The circle of competence mental model is easy to grasp, and the lessons are straightforward. We must understand the perimeter of our circle of competence and operate within it, with full understanding of our potential biases if we want to maximize our chances of success in investing and life in general. We should likewise seek to broaden our circle of competence, but with the realization that we will almost likely have critical deficiencies in our understanding and that actual competence will take years to acquire. If you like these videos, please share them with someone you believe would benefit from them. This will send the appropriate signals to YouTube to recommend these videos to others if you subscribe and click the thumbs up icon. Thanks for tuning in.